there, Sharee here, Naturopath, yoga and meditation teacher from Ashima Living. And today I wanted to talk to you about a specific style of yoga called Yin Yoga and why you might want to try this if you haven't already, particularly if you want to let go of any knots or tension that you're holding in your body or even stress and tension in the mind. So first of all, what is Yin Yoga? As you may or may not know, in modern yoga there's different styles, and Yin Yoga is a particular style, and it's practiced a bit differently to other more popular styles in the sense that there's only a few poses, or there's less poses than other styles of yoga, and they're mostly all practiced on the floor. So it's not a style of yoga that really cultivates strength or fitness. It's very slow. The poses are held for a long time, usually a minimum of 3 minutes, sometimes up to even 10 minutes. So it's really this deep stretch, and it's more of a passive, slower form of yoga than some of the more active forms. So it's called Yin Yoga because if you know about the ancient philosophy of yin and yang, those two opposing but balanced forces in nature, yang is typically associated with qualities such as the masculine principle, movement, dynamism, heat, force, change, whereas yin is the feminine principle, and it's associated with qualities such as being, such as being slow, still, receptive, and more like release and surrender. So if we look at different styles of yoga, if you're familiar with things like vinyasa or ashtanga type of yoga, which is a lot more dynamic, you move through the poses really quickly. There's a lot of standing and strength building poses. It builds heat in the body. It works on the muscles to build strength. We can call those types of yoga a yang type of practice. Whereas yin, because it's much more reflective, it's much more internal, it's a lot more slow and even still, this is classified as a yin style of practice. And if we look at this yin and yang concept in a different way, if you're practicing other forms of exercise, so let's say running or swimming or even playing sports, for example, these are quite yang-based types of movement, and they're very good for fitness and strength, but the body also needs to be deeply stretched, and it's also really important to have a physical practice where you're not trying to reach a certain physical goal, but you're just spending time checking in with your body and getting feedback from your body. So having a yin yoga practice is a really good balance to more yang-based types of movement and exercise, and it will help you to prevent injury and just be a lot more in touch with and in tune with your body as well. And if we look at this yin and yang concept on an even bigger level, our culture is very much a yang-based culture. It's a lot about being busy, about getting things done, about productivity, about reaching the next goal, this constant movement. And we don't get a lot of opportunities in modern day life to balance that out with more yin times, times just to be still, times to let go of trying to achieve anything or have an agenda, but just to experience the present moment as it is, time to slow down, time to reflect. So practicing yin yoga, once or ideally even 2 or 3 times a week is what I feel a really good antidote to modern day life, just to slow down and to start switching from that constant doing mode into more of a being mode as well. One of the other things about yin yoga that I find really interesting, particularly being a naturopath, is it's linked to traditional Chinese medicine. So I don't know if you're familiar with traditional Chinese medicine, but I'm sure you've heard of acupuncture or acupressure and tried it before. But one of the founding philosophies of traditional Chinese medicine is that the body is pretty much run on the most subtle level by qi, or this life force energy. And the chi actually travels through specific pathways or meridians in the body. And these meridians are actually connected to our internal organs. And in Chinese medicine, the internal organs are not just responsible for certain bodily processes, but they're associated with certain emotions and feelings as well. And so what yin yoga does is the types of stretches that are involved in yin yoga, they actually apply pressure on specific meridian pathways. So you can actually sequence a class to work on specific organ meridian pathways. So for example, you could do a class which focuses on the liver and the gallbladder. And this would be a great class if, physically you're having trouble with digestion, particularly digesting fats, bloating, poor detoxification. And on an emotional level, the liver is associated with frustration and anger, trying to force things to happen. So a liver gallbladder yin practice can help to just balance that imbalance of energy. Likewise, you can sequence a class to work, say, on the kidney and the bladder meridian pathway. And in traditional Chinese medicine, the kidneys are really important organs. It's where we store our qi or our life force energy. So if you're feeling particularly tired, depleted, burnt out, in Chinese medicine, this is a qi deficiency in the kidneys. And emotionally, it's associated with feeling very insecure, anxious, or fearful. So you can do a yin practice that helps to strengthen and build up the kidney and the bladder meridians. So that's, looking at it from an energetic, traditional Chinese medicine perspective, but looking at it from more of a, purely Western anatomical perspective. The other advantage of yin yoga is that it works on the fascia or the connective tissue of the body. And if you don't know what fascia is, it's kind of like cling wrap. And if we were to, this is a bit graphic, but if we were to cut open our bodies, you'd see that, it's not just muscles and bones and organs, but everything is held in place by these layers of kind of like cling wrap to hold everything in place. It's what gives architecture to our bodies. Otherwise, we'd just be like a blob. And up until the last few years, fascia wasn't really seen as being that important, but science has been investigating it a lot recently. And it's got some pretty unique qualities. So first of all, it's very electrical. So it's actually transmitting a lot of information throughout the body. It's also, it's not connected through blood vessels. So it actually is very, very fluid. And it contains a substance called hyaluronic acid, which is very hydrophilic. It's able to attract and hold up to 200 times its own body weight in water. So it's this very fluid, electrical, information-generating tissue that's literally all through our body. And it's all connected in one long sheath. But what can happen, particularly if you're doing very repetitive type movements or postures. So let's say you're always at the computer typing, or you don't get a lot of different types of exercise, or even you're doing repetitive movements in your exercise, or always driving, for example, is that the fascia can kind of get bunched up in certain places. So when we feel those knots of tension, we tend to think of it as being in the muscles, but a lot of the time it's actually in that connective tissue. And these areas, they get what's called adhesions, and it becomes very dry. There's no more fluid or water in there. And it becomes very stiff and sticky. And that's when we can start to feel that, that kind of achy, uncomfortable, tight sensations in our bodies. And what yin yoga does is it works directly on this fascia. So for fascia to actually open and release, it has to be stretched for a long period of time. So just doing, a quick, more dynamic yoga practice, it's not really getting into the fascia. But the yin yoga, because the poses are held for at least, 3 minutes or longer, it's enough time to actually really open up these tissues, break up those adhesions, and get the body hydrated and fluid again. So you start to feel that sense of ease and lightness in the body after you've been practicing yin yoga. And because it is connected in one sheath, the interesting thing is you can work on just a few main areas. Like most of the yin yoga practices work predominantly on the hips and the lower back, which is where the connective tissue is the most dense. But just working even on those areas, it will help to loosen up all over the body, basically. So if you are storing, that really deep physical tension in your body, the yin yoga will really help to open you back up again and feel a lot more comfortable and at ease in your own body. And on a mental level, this is probably the main reason that I love yin yoga, that I teach it, I practice it. On my retreats in Nepal, we do a lot of yin yoga practice because I think it's such a great type of yoga to do on a retreat as well, is for the mental benefits. So because it is slow, because you're spending a lot of time, just being still on your mat in the poses, it enables you to start working with the mind as well. So it enables you to kind of let go of any agenda, to really drop down from that thinking, active mindset to more of a receptive, feeling state of mind. And it allows you to check in with your present experience, to really focus on the breath, to focus on the sensations in your body as well. So it's very much a mindfulness-based practice. And it's a great complement to a regular meditation practice, and it's a great meditation practice in its own right if you actually work with the mind, as well as the poses. And the other thing that it does is, and this is a foundation of mindfulness, is we start to gain insights into how we react to our physical sensations. And this is important because we can actually apply it off the mat as well. So for example, some of the poses, even though they're simple poses, particularly if you're quite tight in the body, it's a deep stretch. So you do feel a lot of sensation in some of the poses. It can be quite intense because you're going to that edge of your comfort zone in your body to really open up and create space. And how we react to that intensity is really interesting. We can pay attention to what's going on in our bodies and our minds when we're in these poses, and just notice, are we reacting to this intensity? Are we perceiving it as hard or difficult? And as a result, are we resisting in some way? We start to sometimes tense up other areas of the body, and sometimes the breath starts to become really shallow. And it's because we're actually experiencing this resistance to the pose. We don't want to completely feel it. And what we're actually doing is just adding tension and difficulty on top. Or we can start to choose to react differently. We can let go of that mental resistance. We can accept the sensations. We can even investigate them with curiosity. And most importantly, we can just surrender. We can acknowledge that maybe it is intense, maybe even a little bit difficult, but we can choose to soften everything around the pose, to soften our bodies, to deepen our breath, and to just surrender to what's happening in the poses. And as we start to do this in our yin yoga, from a more philosophical perspective, we can start to apply it off the mat as well. So let's say you're sitting in traffic and it could be what we perceive to be a very stressful situation. We have that choice how we want to react. We can react by adding more tension to the situation. We can resist the reality of the present moment by tensing through our bodies, by shortening the breath, by creating these stories in our minds about how we're going to be late and what the consequences of that's going to be. Or we can choose to accept that in this moment, if we're stuck in traffic, there's not much we can do, and we can choose to surrender. We can soften our bodies, we can deepen our breath, and we can just, experience the moment as it is without that resistance or that judgment. So I know it's a bit more of a philosophical perspective, but that's the beauty of yoga, particularly with a regular practice. We start to apply it off our mats as well and in our daily lives. So I would love you, if you're interested, to try Yin Yoga. I've actually created a full 60-minute downloadable class that's totally free. So I'm going to put the link, as soon as I finish the video, I'll put the link in the caption. If you're watching live and you want to go straight there, it's ashimaliving.com/yin yoga class. So ashimaliving.com/yin yoga class. You can either just stream it live, or you can download it and keep it on your laptop or whatever. And, it's a nice thing to do, particularly, you don't have to do it at night, but it's a really nice thing to do at night with some soft music, with some candles, beats, watching TV and zoning out any night, I reckon. So give it a try. And if you do give it a try, I'd love to hear from you in the comments how it went for you and what you think. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.